And good morning, y'all. We are live on YouTube on the Falcons Podcast. The day after the Super Bowl, we are going to bring in Atlanta Falcons on SI on Facebook. And we'll bring in Scout Kennedy on X. So we're hitting Meta, we're hitting Elon, we're hitting Google, we're hitting all of them this morning. And it looks like we're good to go. Welcome in, y'all. This is the Falcons Podcast. It is Monday morning on a crisp, cool, but will be much warmer later this afternoon day in Atlanta. It is February 9th, the day after the Super Bowl. I guess we're pushing it back another week. I saw a notice on X, be prepared. It is on Valentine's Day next year. So maybe you'll have an excuse to get out of Valentine's Day. I don't know. We've got a lot to get into today. There was some news over the weekend. And then there was some news that got buried over the weekend. And then we can talk a little bit of Super Bowl or whatnot, whatever y'all want to get into. But first off, we're going to hit the news of James Pearce Jr. was arrested and charged with 5 felonies in association with a domestic dispute with his girlfriend. I'm not sure how to pronounce her name. Rakea. It's Rick E.A. She was a basketball player at Tennessee. They're down in Florida. I don't even want to say allegedly on a lot of this stuff because a lot of it's on video, some of the stuff that he did. So, but it was, allegedly ramming his Lamborghini into her car, which was the assault with a deadly weapon charge, trying to keep her from fleeing and going to the police. Then the police showed up. He took off in his Lamborghini and wrecked it. And then if you've seen the video, 40 cops showed up. In a neighborhood like that, there's probably not a lot going on. I know in a neighborhood like mine, if something like that was going on, the entire town and probably Roswell and Alpharetta police would probably show up too because they got nothing else to do. It's ugly. It's really ugly. And again, 5 felony counts. And frankly, looking at them, they could have thrown more at him. When you're talking about that, you can throw an attempted murder charge at somebody with something like that. You can get resisting with violence. You can get assault and battery on a police officer, all kinds of stuff. It's just bad. It's all bad. When we talked beforehand, the red flags, the character concerns on that, I don't know that anybody ever expected this. We never heard off-field problems. The stuff that we heard and that we saw were more on-field problems. It was like clashing with coaches, lack of effort, that type of stuff. The Atlanta Falcons said that they did a deep dive into his background and felt good about him, so they traded up and took him and selected him. And the early returns, the first 11 months were great. 10 and a half sacks, clean as a whistle, and then all of a sudden this just blows up in the Falconest way possible. And I hate to take away the human side of this, but I did a quick gut reaction for the members yesterday morning, and it's every time the Falcons swing on something, when they try and do something out of the ordinary, whenever they take a risk, it blows up. They're the unluckiest franchise on earth. I mean, let's take a swing on a tight end at number 4. We'll be the first team ever to take a tight end at number 4. It didn't work out. Kyle Pitts is okay, but anybody thinks that he was a great pick at number 4, he wasn't. Why? That's a different discussion. He wasn't. It didn't work out. Let's pay a veteran quarterback $100 million guaranteed, $50 million a year, and then we're going to back him with a class of red shirts. Nobody does that. Blew up in their faces. Traded up for a guy who fell in the draft because of character concerns, and it's now blown up in their faces. It's just there's certain things you can do to avoid, if you've ever been in recovery of any kind. One of the first coping mechanisms they teach you is, what could I have done? Okay, I'm really pissed off at this person. Somebody has wronged me. What could I have done differently to avoid this situation? Well, you're careful with guys that have had 3 season-ending surgeries when you're drafting them. You look at the red flags and you follow historical precedents and don't become the first team to ever draft a non-premium position that high. Those are the things that I could have done differently. And I'll tell you what, then I'm going to get to some of y'all's thoughts. And no, I don't believe this, but your mind goes through all kinds of different scenarios and stuff. If Terry Fontenot goes back to the Saints within 24 years, that's probably about right, ever, within 24 months, I'm going scorched earth on him. I am going scorched earth on Fontenot if he ends up back with the Saints within the next 24 months, as far as the plant tanking the team. He really stuck it to the Falcons, and now he's back with the Saints. Let's say hello to some folks. I see a couple of supers coming in nice and early. Curtis Case coming back in. Thank you for being a member too, my friend. He says, well, here we are, another draft. And now we need another defensive end / edge again. Smack my head. JPJ needs a good old-fashioned butt whooping. Well, it took about 4 cops and 3 bystanders and then the entire force to subdue him. And I'm glad, it shows everything at the end there. They got him calmed down, and, he was standing in cuffs and everything looked, okay, you're arrested. Okay, I'm arrested. Some of us have been there before. You accept your fate and you go, because that we've seen what happens with resisting. It can get tragic. So I don't know what he needs. And I know John Harrell asked, what's wrong with these athletes? Well, there's several things. One, not everybody's wired the same. People have emotional control issues, and sometimes you use that to your benefit when you're 6'4" and 250 pounds and can run like a deer. You use that fire and that fuel and that anger to succeed in a sport that rewards you for being violent and all those things. And some people can't turn it off. And when they see red, they're gone. You see red. If it's ever happened to you and you see red, it doesn't matter what is going on around you. Nothing else in the world matters at that moment, except what has triggered you, is what has set you off. And the other part is, professional athletes didn't all of a sudden just get good. They've been the best by a lot. By a lot. They've been the best in their area, in their school, and their youth teams. They're treated differently. This first came up to me when, was it Peter Warwick, in the midst of a Heisman season, gets arrested for stealing clothes at Dillard's. Well, the cashier had, slid it back and handed him a bag. You think that's the first time? What was he thinking? Well, he's thinking this is what he's been doing for 10 years. He's thinking this is just the way it is. So you get these kids that are pandered to their whole lives, along with some emotional problems, with some emotional control issues, and it becomes a problem. Does James Pearce Jr., does he need some help? Yes, he does. He does. Is it the Falcons' responsibility to do that? No, not necessarily. It isn't. And he will face consequences for 5 felony charges. You will face consequences. Just because you've got a problem doesn't give you an excuse. Hopefully, no one else gets hurt when you're doing something like that. When you're in the midst of one of your own, fighting your own demons. Hopefully, you don't leave a wake of destruction behind you. So thank you, Curtis. I certainly appreciate it. And Edward Brown coming in with a super as well. He says, Super Bowl week, and guess which franchise is in the news for something negative? Do they still have the rookie symposium? I would think they do, but I haven't heard about it. Maybe it's just become so. They used to get all the, I don't know if it was all the rookies or just the first rounders, but they get all the rookies together and basically in a, there's only 250 of them, get them together in Kansas City or something at an auditorium, and they would have an introduction. This is what to look out for. Don't do this. Don't do this. Don't do this. There's going to be people with hands in your pockets. Get a money advisor, someone you trust. Do that. Watch out for this. Watch out for this. They used to do that. I don't know if they do that anymore. Hopefully some of that is going on with the team. Again, this is a multi-million dollar investment from a business. Okay, well, I'm going to hire him a babysitter. I'm going to spend $100,000 a year on my multi-million dollar investment, and you're going to end up being his best friend. You guys, this is going to be your handler. You need anything, you call. This is for advice. This is for a ride. This is for whatever. I'll spend $100,000 on that. So, we talked about that with, private investigation, before the draft. If I'm about to drop $25 million on a draft pick on a guaranteed contract, I can spend a couple $100,000 on a private investigator firm to make sure that I know everything that there is to know about it. And you can still, doesn't mean you're going to get it right. It doesn't mean you're still going to have problems. But going back to Curtis's, here we are, another draft and need another edge / defensive end. The Falcons spent $100 million on a quarterback and use a number 8 pick. They trade up a number 13 pick for an edge. And guess what? They still have quarterback questions. They still have edge questions. And I saw someone post, like, can we fire Terry Fontenot again? It's one of the comments on the YouTube video I did yesterday. And that's when I said, if he ends up back at the Saints, oh man, I'm gonna be pissed. I'm gonna be pissed. And it's logical, everybody, they go back to, everybody hires their buddies. Where you have this connection. So when Terry did some good things here, but when he took risks, they didn't pan out. And that's one of the reasons why he is no longer general manager of the Atlanta Falcons. And this one hurts. This one hurts. We had talked about this being a final gift. Hey, it was too little, too late. You ignored the defense for too long, just like Thomas Dimitroff did, just like he ignored the offensive line too long. And by the time you got around to using some picks on the offensive line and defense, it was too late. Your window had already closed. In this case, it never really opened because you didn't have a defense to stop anybody after using a bunch of picks on offensive skill positions and ignoring the other side of the ball for too many years. It went too long. But let's say one of the reasons we go live is because we like having the conversation with y'all. So I do want to say hello to some folks that have come in here before we even got started, like Cashbag Beats. Says, good morning, Scott. Do you think the issue with JPG will cause our draft outlook to change? Yeah. The offseason outlook for sure. I think it means Leonard Floyd should be more of a priority in free agency. I think he got around 10 last year. Okay, bring him back, see what happens. And then, because if he's gone, Arnold Ebiketie might get a little bit more money now from the Falcons. You might bring him back. Do I want to lose James Pearce Jr., Arnold Ebiketie, and Leonard Floyd? All I got right now is Jalen Walker, and he was injured for a third of the year at least. Yeah, edge is a big need again for this team. Absolutely. So the whole offseason outlook changes. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen with James Pearce, but I'll be surprised if he plays for the Falcons in 2026. We're in 2026. I'll be surprised if he plays for the Falcons this year. Very surprised. I mean, he got hit with 5 felonies. Not all of those will stick. He'll plead some of those down. But there's certain things that you can't count on the ex-girlfriend to say, no, I don't want to press charges on. There's certain things that's not up to her anymore. So, and at what point, it's like, is this worse than this? Is this worse than this? Deshaun Watson, I don't think Deshaun Watson was ever actually convicted of anything. And how long was he out? 6 games, 8 games? I don't remember. I look at this as being below the Ray Rice thing, but he never came back. This isn't in the neighborhood of, if y'all remember Ray Caruth, it's knocking on the door. We're in the same neighborhood here with Ray Caruth. I'm not going to talk about that one on here, but if you need to know, just Google Ray Caruth Panthers. That one was as bad as it can possibly get, literally. We're in the same neighborhood when you're ramming somebody's car like that, and it's bad. I mean, it's bad. We saw Michael Vick disappear from the Atlanta Falcons for the dogfighting ring. We're in the neighborhood here where we're talking about this guy might find a hard time being in the league for a couple years on that one. And it absolutely changes the outlook. It makes Leonard Floyd, it makes Arnold Ebiketie, it makes Braylon Trice's health that much more important. All of those things for sure. Gary, good to see you. I've been watching replays lately. I was wondering where you've been, and coming back with a super. You're usually on X also, so I haven't gotten very far down on that. So I've been watching replays lately. So it's nice to catch live, and it's good to have you here. Thank you so much. So disappointed about the James Pearce Jr. situation. I hope he gets the help he needs. Yeah, and I'm sorry for y'all. It's just I'm kind of numb to it at this point, where it's just like, yeah, that figures. It's like, oh yeah, the Falcons. So the younger Falcons fans that come in and watch this show, they'll sometimes get on to us Gen X types for being a little too negative. Guys, we've earned it. Been watching the Falcons since 1980, and there's a lot of what on earth. I mean, falconing is a is a verb, is an adjective, it's a noun for a reason. And the good news for me, Carrie, on this is the regime has already been cleaned house. I mean, Arthur Blank is still there, yes. But from below Arthur Blank down to who's the number one guy on this team, Michael Penix. Everything between there has been evaluated and either changed or deemed worthy to stay. And that's good. I mean, hopefully we'll be able to do a complete seance here and flush some of these demons away and get a fresh start and start acting like a professional franchise again, when it felt like the only time in my lifetime that has happened is from about 2008 to 2018. This felt like a legit professional, maybe a little bit before that, maybe a little bit before that, where it felt like a legit franchise and not just a flash in the pan every so often. 1998 was a bit of a flash in the pan. They still didn't have back-to-back winning seasons, even after going 14-2 in 1998. So it's disappointing. It's frustrating. And, Nick called me. He's like, I'm going to make, this broke at like 9:30 at night. Hell, I'm in bed at 9. I was in bed. I saw the news when we got it up, but I'm in bed at 9:30 when he called me watching TV on Saturday night. Just want to make sure you saw that. And I'm like, yeah, you see why I get a little testy with the Broncos fans for bitching about Sean Payton's play calling in a 14-3 season. Y'all have no idea how the other half lives, how truly how it feels to have a team like this. You have no idea. You are so spoiled. So it's frustrating, Carrie, and it's great to see. I'm glad you're able to catch live today on this. Austin says, I'm anticipating the Falcons cutting Pearce now. So now the question for me is, how can I find 10 sacks? Can a combination of Jalen Walker, Brandon Dorlus, and Zach Harrison do it? Bring Floyd back too, and add some more depth. And Ebiketti's on the table now. We'll see what kind of deal he gets. But would you go 3 years, 21 million, 15 guaranteed at 7.5 for Ebiketti? Maybe. That's good backup edge money. And then I'm looking at a draft. So in the draft we did, I ended up on Friday on our members only draft, NFL mock draft on Friday morning, we took Zion Young. And I took him just because I'm like, okay, this guy's too good to pass up. I've seen him in person. And if he's there at 40, I can't pass this guy up. Not when Lee Hunter's already off the board. And, not when the guys that were there, I'm like, this guy's better than everybody else. I like this guy significantly more. Then it turns out, okay, well, now he's my starting edge opposite. He's a bigger edge. He's like 6'6", he'll play at 260, 270. He's a bigger guy. And then someone responded back to me naturally. He says, wait till you find out about his off the field issues. I'm like, oh, great. I do a quick search. He got in trouble for, I guess, at Missouri. They're playing, or it might have been at Michigan State. They jumped a player in the tunnel or something. An altercation broke out, and it wasn't a fair fight, and he got in trouble for that. And then at Missouri, just a couple of weeks ago, according to records, he got a DUI in December. I'm like, all right, well, fights happen. We've been in situations where, if you've gone to college and gone out at all, that fights happen. You've gone anywhere, it happens. So be it. Okay, what are the circumstances? But when you're going through your draft process and you get a DUI, yeah, that means questionable judgment. I'm like, it's just frustrating on this. Floyd, good morning. I'm glad you could make it live too. Hope you are doing well. John, good morning, John. He says, void his contract. It might, and it might not be up to the Falcons. There's they might have the ability. There's those personal conduct clauses that are in all of these things that give you the ability to void a contract. Now, is that what you want to have happen? No, you've got a Pro Bowl caliber edge rusher. And let's see what on Spot Rack. Let me know if I'm freezing up again, because I'm going over to Spot Rack, and this is where I started having problems before. But I turned off hardware acceleration, which should help. But James Pearce Jr. on a rookie contract's at $3.8 million. You can't get the equivalent of that for $3.8 million, not in a million years. That's the whole point of having the rookie deals and taking advantage of those. So you might be able to on that. Keith says, what's next? Back to the drawing board. Like I said, it makes those other three guys become more Ebiketie. We're talking about Ebiketie. We're talking about Trice is still under contract. We'll see. And Leonard Floyd. It makes those guys more of a priority in the offseason. Corey, good to see you. He says, I've been mocking LT Overton to us at 48 before this. I feel like LT is a bigger dude also. Let me see Alabama. I need to sort these a different way. He's a big dude. And he may go inside, and I want to see how he tests. He played inside outside at Senior Bowl. He's from Alabama, and he went just a tick under 6'3", 6'2 3/4, and 278 pounds with giant hands. Goodness. No, that's a different one. No, that's Zion Young. He has big hands. Almost 10.5-inch hands, and then 34-inch arms. So he's built well. We'll see where he ends up going on that. I like Zion Young significantly better than him when it came to how they worked. And he was 6'5 1/4, 262. But again, he's got the red flags in the background too. Well, so does LT Overton. I don't know that. I don't know all these on these guys. I know what I saw at the Senior Bowl at this point. Watching 125 guys and how they perform there. And Zion was better than LT in that situation. And LT could be that inside-outside guy. So we'll see. And Lance, good to see you. And thanks for being a member, Lance. Hope you're doing well. He says, another Fontenot treat. Keeping Cousins last year guaranteed his 2026 bonus. That was $10 million is what it ended up costing him extra. Fans argues $10 million was no biggie. That's a quality linebacker we need right now. Yeah, I wasn't necessarily one of those people. You know that. Because when I go $10 million and I say the cap hit, do y'all know how many players have cap hits, including Kirk Cousins is on this list? How many players have cap hits over $10 million on the Atlanta Falcons? I'll give you a count of three. 1, 2, 3. Everybody guess. Right now, and this is before any changes are made, there are 8 players. 8 players. So if you had a $10 million to spend on a position, he would be one of your top 10 highest paid players if he had a $10 million. And they just, you needed a backup. Did you though? And because, and a one-away backup, someone who was publicly gone and wanted to go away isn't necessarily the best backup in the world. Kirk did fine, but as we said, if Kirk is in, then the season's already over. It's already done. So what do you need him for anyway? To help keep the Rams from having a higher pick? Thanks. Winning 4 in a row didn't win them anything. We have to bring out the side jar again. Every time we give a big sigh, we got to put $1 in the side jar. Let's get down here. Halsey says, maybe this is a chance to prevent another Deron Lee story from taking place in the future. Yeah, and again, if this is as bad as it gets for him, you hit a low point with these things. They call it hitting rock bottom. I bet he feels rock bottom now, facing 5 felony counts, sitting in jail. He got out on bond, but I bet he was feeling it then. I gotta change some things. Once that red fog goes away, I gotta make some changes in my life. This isn't how I want to live my life. And I went through something similar. And how old is he? For me, I was 24. Was when mine all stopped. I was 24 years old. It was 1997. Was when mine all turned around. I'm like, I was sitting in the back of a squad car. I'm like, actually, it's before that. As soon as the lights went up in my rearview mirror, I said, that's it. I'm done. I am done. And it's been almost 29 years sober since then. So if that light comes on and this is as bad as it gets, he can consider himself lucky. He can rich man his way out of some of these charges, plead some of these things down, not do 10 years on 5 felonies, plead some of them down, and end up having it be pretty minor things, that actually hits his record, and he can turn it around again. But again, like I said, in recovery, you got to want to do it for yourself. And when you've got a problem like this, it is something that he's going to have to change on himself on this. So, Aid Allen, good to see you. Glad you are here. AJ, good morning. Hope you are doing well. Antonio Langford. Yeah, and he says, I hope he says, good morning, Scott and Falcons fam. That's all of y'all. So good morning from Antonio. He says, let's get him the help he needs. And again, he's got to want it. You have to want to do this for yourself. And it takes hitting a rock bottom in order to do that. And if he didn't hit rock bottom, sitting like in the back, sitting in a cell with his handcuffs behind his back, thinking my entire future is now gone, then there might not be any hope for this dude. But I have a feeling there is an epiphany. Jay Scoom says we can't cut him. That's organizational malpractice. Well, you probably can. You can probably void his contract for behavior. The behavioral clauses that are in there. There's the embarrassing the league type stuff. They've put clauses in there that if something like this happens, your contract can be voided without, without financial penalties to the team that had them. But frankly, as a rookie, and I don't really even like thinking like this, but his dead cap number is just $13 million. I mean, that's the whole point of rookie contracts. When you get those guys and they outperform and you've got 5 years, you hope to get 5 years of bargain basement of a deal before they get their big money on their second contract. Big money. I know it's all relative, but when you got guys signing $50 million to play crappy quarterback, $15 million is not all that much, right? So it's all relative on this. So you probably can cut him and void his contract as soon as this plays out in the legal realm. And my guess is he'll be suspended until that does, and suspended from team activities too. So we'll see. Like I said, enough of this was public that it was, I'm always of the, let's wait till the facts come out. When you get athletes being accused of stuff, of different things, I'm like, all right, let's just wait and see. Because there's a lot of people out there that want to sue and get rich. I want to accuse this and I want to settle and I want to get a settlement out of it. There's as much of that going on as actual problems. So I'm always of the wait and see. This one's a little different, y'all. What we have seen publicly has him in trouble. I don't know what tipped him off. I don't necessarily care. But what we have seen, he's in trouble for that. There's not like, hey, let's wait for all the facts to come out. I've seen some facts. They're not good. And Nando talking about, this isn't about James Pearce Jr., the football player. This is about the young man's life and future. We all make mistakes in this lifetime. I don't think we release him. I don't know if they do or not, but I'll be surprised if he's in a Falcons uniform in 2026. That's my thought on that right now. And Evan says they definitely can get rid of him. Wasn't these guys' pick? They didn't do this, and blank, doesn't necessarily want the story on here. Greg, good to see you. He says I think the headline framing is heavier than the underlying conduct. I mean, you hear 5 felonies, and yeah, that sounds awful. We've seen that in the political realm as well, and then you find out what some of those things are. And like I said, Greg, I think they could have done it worse. They could have made it worse. When you are targeting somebody in a car, they can drop an attempted murder charge on you, no problem. So I think they've actually charged him. They actually scaled it down. And I think he will probably plea some of this stuff down for sure, and he can probably get away without having any felonies on his record. But he's in trouble. Make no mistake about it. He's definitely in trouble. And the underlying conduct, when you say that, I think the headline framing is heavier than the underlying conduct. Greg, this is the part we worry about, though. This is the part we worry about. Is this the underlying conduct is the problem? It was the red flags going in with James Pearce Jr. and the character concerns that go in. The underlying conduct is the concern, not necessarily that he, had is this a one-off where, he totally lost his temper and had a weak moment in his life. Okay, well, that's understandable. But there were red flags around this before. It's the underlying conduct that's the concern. All right, I made a mistake. I need to atone for it, and then I want to move on with my life. I think if we all thought that was the case, what's the problem? Okay, yeah, I made a mistake. No one got hurt. That's the big one. No one got hurt. Some property damage, felony. But no one got hurt. Let's move on and correct this and move on. But is it done? That's the concern. Greg, that's the concern, the underlying conduct. That's what has to change. That's what has to get better. And like I said, it's part of a recovery. It really is. If you've got anger management is an easy way to frame that, but it's part of a recovery. It really is. So, and Jay Scoom, thanks for the super chat, my friend. I appreciate you coming in and supporting the show. Let's get back to a couple more of your comments. And AJ says, there's always a chance that the Rashee Rice situation where the legal proceedings take a year at least. I mean, lawyers don't get paid to do things quickly. That's for damn sure. They're not incentivized to go fast. They're incentivized to bill hours, which is a conflict of interest, but that's another story. His suspension comes in 2027, but the Falcons can void guarantees. Well, his whole contract is guaranteed. So the NFL could suspend him without pay for whenever they wanted to, pending as this goes. And Matt Sinus, thank you for being a member, and says we just can't have nice things. Certainly feels that way, doesn't it? Jay, good to see you. Jay and I go way back. Jay was a year behind me at Pope High School. He didn't see a lot of the ugly stuff that was going on, but he saw enough of it at Pope to know that, people get in trouble, but are there underlying concerns? And he says, if this dude hit a lady, cut him and be done with him, and good riddance. He hit her car. There isn't any report of him striking, putting hands on somebody. It was like felony aggravated stalking. Okay, well, that's just a throw-in. That one's in there for sure. The resisting arrest, that's going to be thrown in for sure. That can get tossed out. And then it was the deadly weapon was the car, and the report was, and there's video of it. Well, at least enough video of the aftermath that I believe it, that he was ramming her car with his Lamborghini. I mean, are you in your right mind? When I said about seeing red, you're going to take a $400,000 car and use it as a weapon. Are you thinking? No, man. You're gone. You are gone. I don't know if anybody's ever lost it like that before, but you see red. There's no reasoning with you until you get restrained and calm down. Heaven says trade everything and restart in 2027. Yeah, the move that this happens from here is, Drake London gets moved for 2 first-round picks. Yeah, I don't see that happening. We'll see, though. We'll see. Let's see who else has come in here. Troy, good to see you. He says CTE maybe. Please let this be a misunderstanding. I mean, I'm sure there's more to it. There's more to the story. There always is. But what we've seen publicly is enough to have him in big trouble, and that's part of it. And Atlanta Focus says, what I don't understand is if you're the Falcons, you take that risk. Why not have someone monitoring his every move? Yeah, get him a babysitter. Find a kid his age from Tennessee that he trusts. Pay him $100,000 to be a snitch. James is out here. He's down in Florida and he's headed over his ex-girlfriend's house. Ah, crap. Let's get on the phone and get some boys over there to intervene. For sure. Absolutely. Sam, good to see you. He says, let's trade up for the number 1 pick. With what? Here's Drake London, a 2027 and a 2028 number 1 for the number 1 pick. And frankly, y'all, this is not the draft to do it. is Fernando Mendoza who you want to spend 4 first-round draft picks on to get to number 1? Not me. This is not the draft to do it. I know you're being facetious on this. And Chris Tyler, talking about there's no excuse to do this. But again, I don't think there was ever actually a battery involved. I don't think I could be wrong. I don't think he put his hands on her. Because that becomes a whole different issue unless we're talking Marcelo Zuna. And him and his wife have a weird relationship where they beat the hell out of each other. I hate to make light of it, but when I talk about, all the facts coming out, the Marcelo Zuna situation is one of those. There's got to be some facts that come along with it. They had a different type of relationship, for sure, but it was neither one of them were angels in that regard. Let me see here as we keep going through here. Matt Stein says, thank God they weren't playing. Jerome, good to see you. He says, Scott, if Big Ben can have a career after his allegations, and so can Pearce. Also, I think a lot of the charges get reduced to the small amount of bond. I agree. I think they get reduced to. I'm positive they will. I mean, he's not going to go to court with 5 felonies against him, or if he does, that's not what he's going to come out of it with. I'll be a little surprised if he's not able to plead down and not get a felony on his record at all. So I agree with you on that. And this, like I said, that doing it in public is different. Did Roethlisberger get charged? Did Watson did he get convicted of anything? I don't remember. It's been so long. I remember that going on with Roethlisberger a long time ago. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes on. We know this. But with cell phone cameras and you start doing stuff publicly, it's different. The PR involved is different for sure. And 10 Cam says, I'd be pissed if we release him and he somehow gets back in the NFL and gets with the Saints. Yeah, I don't know how it's all going to work, man. I mean, the Falcons, they voided his contract with Vic, and Vic ended up back a few years later. They didn't retain his rights. I don't think the Falcons got any trade compensation or nothing. He was a free agent when he got out of prison. I'm tired of talking about this. Stay out of prison. You're grown men. Not grown. James Pearce Jr. is not quite a grown man. How old is he anyway? He's 23. He's 23. So yeah, he's right in that. I just found some money and getting out and being. But again, I think the problem for me is, again, the warning flags that are there. If this is a pattern and not just I lost control one time, it's different. So we'll see. And that'll be all part of the legal proceedings now, is past behavior. They'll bring it up, I promise you, when they decide what they want to charge him with. Jesse, your question about Rashee Rice. No, it wasn't Rashee Rice or Ray Rice. That was Ray Caruth that you're talking about. Yes, his was as ugly as it possibly gets. Or did Rashee? I don't remember Rashee as far as that. Now, I was talking about Ray Caruth, though. I know we're talking about Henry Ruggs. They're saying, can he get back into the league? Would you want Henry Ruggs on this team? I don't care. Someone said, I don't care what they did. We need to win some games. I'm like, guys, that's not why I'm a fan of sports. It matters to me. I'd rather lose for the rest of my life than have Henry Ruggs on this team. Have Ray Caruth get out of prison for what he did and end up, and he was in prison too long to ever come back. But to have him, I don't need to win that bad. I don't need to win that bad. I'd rather give up on this stuff. And Sam says about the number 1 pick. He says, my number 1 pick comment was about trading up for Michael Vick and that blowing up in our face as well. You were talking about swinging for the fences and not working. What's worked for this team is trading down. The Falcons got a haul for trading out of the number 1 spot when they traded the rights for Jeff George. Got Andre Rison, they got Chris Hinton, they got a number 1 pick and something else. They did, but I don't know. As far as Michael Vick blowing up in our faces, well, it did. But he was in Atlanta for a long time. I mean, he's got a legacy here that is positive. If this happened after 5 years of James Pearce Jr., you'd say, okay, yeah, it was still a good move, and he's got 60 sacks and he's second all time. But this one blew up quickly. It blew up before he might not even play, and now you're watching the Rams take your pick. You got flush that down the toilet for one lost season. I wouldn't say the Vic one overall was still, I still consider that a positive trade, just for what he did for this franchise. That was a trade I don't regret them making on that one. But I see what you're saying, Sam. Sorry, I apologize. I misunderstood. Going back to Carey, says no. He says not having him. From a football standpoint, it hurts. We got to worry about the pass rush again when I felt pretty good about it in the offseason for once. Do you think Blank will give him a second chance, or do you predict he gets released? The first thing that's going to happen, they haven't put out a statement yet, at least unless it's happened in the last few hours since we've been here. They haven't put out a statement. This will be word for word, give or take. We're aware of the incident involving James Pearce Jr. down in Florida. We're going to wait and see what the legal process happens before we make any decisions, and offer him any help he needs, and blah, blah, blah. So, do I think we'll see? But I will be a little surprised if he plays this season. If he gets a 1-year suspension, I would think 8 games minimum. If he pleads this down and gets reckless endangerment, anything like that, 8 games minimum. I don't think he's necessarily done. My initial reaction, my gut reaction when I heard it was like, well, he's done. That's it. And then I'm like, all right, well, what about when this guy, and what about that guy, and what about that guy? And if you can play, they really don't care what you've done. And he can plead this down to stuff that's not going to be that awful, that he may just get a half a season suspension on this. So we'll see. We will see. Stop drafting defense in round 1. Hell, when did they start? I think AJ Terrell was the last time they did. And Jalen Walker looks like a gem if he can stay freaking healthy on that one. Chris Walker, good to see you, one of the OGs. He's over on Facebook. He says, good morning, everyone. It sucks about JPJ, really rotten thing. It seems like a failure on the previous regime to do proper and thorough due diligence in regards to his makeup and background. I'm going to take a sip of coffee, and then we're going to get into this one. So, talking about due diligence, and I kind of made the same parallel, Chris, and y'all, to the health of this team. So I'm going to tie this into Ryan Pace also getting released. He was vice president of football operations and director of player personnel, former general manager of the Chicago Bears, was hired by Terry Fontenot, and then was in 2022, was given a promotion in 2023 and a promotion in 2024. And then as the vice president of football operations, his job is a little bit redundant unless Matt Ryan needs an assistant. You'd be the assistant to the president of football. And then he was the director of player personnel. That means you're basically in charge of a lot of stuff that goes on once they are Atlanta Falcons. As a general manager, my main task is to build the roster, and then a director of player personnel, his main task is to take care of the roster and something like that. Well, once they've become Falcons, we've had problems under this regime the last 2-3 years when it comes to specifically injuries and how they've come back. So I'm like, who's doing this deep dive due diligence on James Pearce Jr.? Is it the same people that are saying Storm Norton is a week from going and open his practice window only to have a setback? Is it the same people looking at Troy Anderson's knee? Is it the same people looking at Braylon Trice's knees? Is it the same people that are running Michael Vick there? It's all bad. This last regime, as far as director of player personnel taking care of the team, failed big time. Due diligence. So I'm hoping there's an overhaul in the medical staff, the physical conditioning, the training, all that stuff. I hope it's overhauled and brought in. I don't always like talking about the Denver Broncos, but that's the other team I watch all the time, and I can see the parallels. So bear with me on this. The Denver Broncos hired a local trainer to be their head of strength and conditioning that the players were using in the offseason to work out with. He was there for like 4 years, and they were bottom, DFL, in games lost to injury for 4 years in a row. Now, we want to say, oh, injuries are freak things. This can happen 4 years in a row. Sean Payton comes in. One of the first things he does is he fires that guy and brings in his own guy, and brings in one of the guys, a legendary guy from LSU, and then another to head up strength and conditioning, and the other one's to head up like personal wellness, which is his boss and oversees nutrition and all that stuff. They went from worst to top 3 in games lost, as far as the fewest games lost since Sean Payton's been there. It's a real thing, and the Falcons were bad at it. Will, good to see you. He says, you think the Falcons will go edge in the second round now? We'll see. I didn't want to in the draft, but depending, I feel like the free agency, and it might be their own internal free agents as far as what's next for the Falcons. Leonard Floyd's a priority, and all of a sudden Arnold McKinney became a priority. And now we're keeping an eye on Braylon Trice's knee because I'm still not counting on him. I cannot go into this offseason counting on him, but anything I get out of that sure would be nice. I still feel like the number one priority for this team as far as premium resources, big money and a second-round pick, would be wide receiver, defensive tackle, and corner are the 3 biggest priorities there. I can get competence at edge without having to spend as much money as I do at those other positions. And you need Jalen Walker to be healthy. I mean, that's a big one. Turn him loose. He was kind of overshadowed by James Pearce Jr., but Jalen Walker had a good season, but overall it wasn't a great season. Well, he was second in the league in sacks as a rookie at 5.5. I know, but I want to see him out on the field more, and I want to see him making more plays. I didn't feel like we saw the best of Jalen Walker, and as a rookie, and that's okay. But he missed a lot of time out there. And Denver Luke was in here as I'm hacking on Broncos fans, listening to the Falcons fans, crying their beers. It's just different. Being a fan of this team is, I see, the Atlanta fans are the worst. Atlanta fans are the best. If you're a fan of an Atlanta Falcon, you got low expectations and you're loyal. Man, those are my kind of people. Falcons fans, y'all are my kind of people. That's for sure. And Kerry said, saying we're talking about having to depend on AK, who wants out of Atlanta before the trade deadline and just hasn't been that guy. And Trice has never played a snap. Saveless, Walker, and Dorless. Yeah, I don't know that I'm depending on them, but they might be pieces. And Trice is under contract. Walker, and Ebiketie, I at least know what I'm getting. He's a competent professional. I could use that. If I can get it for, good value for it, he's a competent professional. He's a good number 3. He's a solid number 3. And, and then I got Leonard Floyd, who was also a solid number 3. And frankly, Walker's a number 2 right now. And Pierce was supposed to be the number 1. Number 1s are hard to find. Not everybody has a number 1. But talking about using the Moneyball approach, as someone brought up earlier, building them in the aggregate, if I can get numbers of competency and then I'm always throwing someone fresh, maybe it'll work. For sure. Maybe it'll work. OMT Studios, glad to see you here. Hope you're doing well. Joseph says, what do you think the NFL commissioner will do? They'll wait a little bit. They'll wait until a hearing, or I don't even know what it's all called. I read enough crime books I feel like I should know what the arraignment is, what it's called, before they go out there. But I think the next move officially will be to say we're going to wait and see. But as far as actually making a move, I think he'll be suspended upon further investigation, which doesn't really matter until OTAs, which start right after the draft. So in May. So, I mean, if you're going to get in trouble, this is a good time to do it. You got February, March, April, and May to get your stuff together before anything happens. So we'll see. Tim Smith talking about Rakea Jackson. Yeah, I didn't know who she was. I looked it up. I'm like, wow. talk about good genes. James Pearce Jr. and her 6'2" forward, and she is beautiful. So I think she may have gone a little bit high on the hot crazy meter, and James Pearce Jr. on her own right when it goes. And it made me think of Terry Fontenot. If y'all know the old skit, the hot crazy meter, you don't want to be above this line or this line when it comes to hot and how crazy they are. I feel like he pegs it. He's like, oh man, I fall in love with this player is so good. He's so good. Yeah, but Terry, no, he's so good. I gotta have him. Terry, he's nuts. He's broken. And no, I gotta have him. He gets pegged on the hot crazy meter too on this one. Let's see, Michael Baxter. Good to see you. Hope you are doing well. Let me come down here just a little bit. I think the other thing I wanted to hit on was was Ryan Pace, him getting let go. And I thought it was a little ironic that he was let go in Chicago as a general manager. When he was hired, he was the youngest general manager in football. That dude took some big swings, that's for sure, up in Chicago, reading on some of the deals he made. He was 37, got fired, and then brought in by Terry Fontenot in 2022. And that is when they hired Ian Cunningham to be the assistant general manager. So Ian Cunningham, basically, Ryan Poles replaces him, but then Ian Cunningham comes in as a number 2 while Ryan Pace is leaving, is out the door. Now, in comes Ian Cunningham from the Bears. Out goes Ryan Pace from the Bears. Now, they never actually overlapped, but just some things that make you go, in there, What were some of the things that Ian Cunningham heard about Ryan Pace in Chicago to make sure that he's like, yeah, we need to make sure this guy gets out the door, Matt. We don't need this guy here for sure. Okay, and I had a feeling the Falcons did release a statement. That doesn't surprise me. I had a feeling it was coming any minute. And someone probably just pinged me on here and said, hey, I'll grab this in my Slack group. Let me bring it up real quick. I have a feeling I already read it to you. We are aware of the incident involving James Pearce Jr. in Florida. Falcons, where does he release a statement? I don't see it. It's not on their official page. You said you put it above. Let me see if I can find that real quick, Carrie. I'll have to scroll all the way down to the bottom. Falcons released a statement. We're aware of an incident involving James Pearce Jr. in Miami. We're in the process of gathering more information. We'll not have any further comment on an open legal matter at this time. Was I word for word? I mean, it was close, wasn't I? I did see it. Thank you. Yeah, he must have emailed it out. No, they probably released it via email on that one. We are aware, it was again, it's fairly predictable when this stuff happens. They all same with coaches. That's why they call it coach speak. And it's why sideline reporters and halftime going into halftime, coach, what'd you think? Oh, we got to run the ball a little better, take better protection of the ball, and stop the run. Okay, thanks, coach. We'll see you later. Great. That was huge. You do that for the one time in a 10,000 where they actually say something interesting. Mitchell says, can we cut him and get our first round pick back? Nope, you cannot. The only thing that you might be able to get back is $13 million of guaranteed future money. That may be it. But I don't think anything will happen. I don't think anyone will happen on that. I saw the lawyer of him leaving the prison with 3 lawyers. I wonder if Blank sent a lawyer. Shoot, he may have recommended one, but while he is a rookie in the grand scheme of things, he's still a very rich man. Compared to most of us, if he saved some of that money. We got an idea, he blew some of that on a Lamborghini, but it's 4-year contract, included a $9 million signing bonus last year on top of so he got about $9.5 million last year was his compensation. Can we get back the signing bonus? Not usually. Nope. That's why the whole salary cap thing is such nonsense. Just pay these guys guaranteed contracts. Be done with it instead of trying to manipulate the cap, the signing bonuses, and extending it into void years and all of this stuff. Just pay them what you want to pay them. Make them shorter if you need to. Maybe I don't need a 5-year deal. on this stuff. Maybe I can get them for 3 years. But then the problem is owners can't control themselves, and some owner will come in with a 10-year deal for $250 million, just like they do in baseball. Salary caps are put in to restrain the owners because they can't do it. Carly said, I think it was a rental. That makes sense. He was in NFL honor series before his arrest in San Francisco, then flew to Miami to see Jackson, who was apparently there for work. That makes sense. That makes sense to get a rental on that. They're not going to be happy about that. Yeah, they're not going to be happy about that for sure. That makes sense. So we're about 55 into this, just about to, with NIL, I'm sure he made a lot of money in college. That's the part I kind of forget, that they can actually get like 7 figures in college now instead of just, backroom deals where they're getting maybe $100,000 or whatever, $100 handshakes. And meanwhile, the University of Tennessee has a $200 million budget, annual budget. And anyway, that's a different conversation altogether. And appreciate you, Carrie. Thanks for coming in. I do want to say thank you to our super chat members and our members as well. Curtis is both coming in with a super. Edward Brown, Carrie coming in a couple of times. Thank you so much. Corey, Lance, Greg, Jay Scoom hopping in, Sam, throwing a super to correct me on something. That just makes it feel better. Thank you, Sam. We'll see y'all again soon. I got to meet Sam at practice opening day of training camp, where Darnell Mooney was lost for the year. We saw it in Carrie coming in again. So my voice is about to go. I'm going to call it a day for the day, but keep your notifications on, become members. I've been doing more, and I will do more, especially in the off season, more members only video. Our numbers keep going up. So those that have signed up to become members have stayed, and I thank you for it. And it really helps as we enter the off season to make sure that I can continue doing this year round. It just does. It just helps. So I'm out of here. Garrett should be here tomorrow at 6:00. Also, pay attention. We've got a Braves show going with Harrison. He's going weekly for right now. So we keep adding to the channel, keep adding to your membership, giving you more and more value while the price stays the same. So y'all have a great, and there's the Ronk. Good to see you, Michael. I hope you enjoyed Super Bowl Sunday, even though I know as a Broncos fan, you were shaking your head going, this New England team's fraudulent. I don't blame them. It's not New England's team that they had the easiest schedule of the last 25 years, but they had an easy path, and they were a good team. They weren't a Super Bowl team. And again, I don't blame the Patriots or Patriots fans for that. You only play the teams that are put in front of you. They won, but wasn't a very good Super Bowl. That's for sure. The AFC was definitely down this year. Too much coffee. All right, I'm getting out of here. Y'all have a great rest of your day. Enjoy what's going to be a gorgeous, feels like spring day. I'm going to go watch some baseball. Head over to watch Johns Creek and Alpharetta at 6:15 this evening, and I will see y'all on Wednesday.